Welcome back, everybody. The teams are gearing up here in the Battle Arena for game number 2 of Dignitas versus Immortals.
Yeah, and that game 1 is something the Team Dignitas is going to want to recover from in a big way because there were 24 minutes and 28 seconds in the middle of that game without a kill where they essentially lost everything. They lost 6 turrets, they lost 13,000 gold in gold difference, and they need to either be more proactive or pick compositions that can be proactive because that was a bad way to lose.
And you talked about how Immortals was the team that had the tools to decide when they wanted to fight. Immortals was the team that could initiate and could pick what they wanted to do. When Dignitas relinquished all ability to make those decisions and do it properly, they relinquished all ability to play the game.
Yeah, I agree with you. And as they mentioned on the analyst desk, a lot of that credit actually does go to the Immortals draft phase because they were able to put themselves in all those winning situations and baited a bunch of bans to still get the Warwick that they wanted to have. But then also you kind of go back to Team Dignitas and they need to find some cohesion in their strategy because currently their best player in Someday, yes, he got the solo kill, but then he never really pressed his advantage outside out on Jace. And the rest of the team didn't have the tools that they needed to be able to gain any advantages on their own on that side. So a lot to work on for Team Dignitas, but if you're Immortals, you're actually relatively happy, even though that game was a little goofy.
They seemed very happy by the end of it. At least they were having a good time. I'm glad that they're conscious of how far removed from a normal game of League of Legends that was by the end. I mean, we saw him laughing about the damage share stat on Cody's son.
Yep.
The fact that everybody else had done 4,000 damage and Cody's son was breaking 30K or something like that. It was...
Yeah, 65% of the team's damage. The sole poke champion. Varus creates poke comps in these situations. Now, though, they're not going to have blue side, so they don't have the chance to first pick that. And I really do want to see how Team Dignitas are able to bounce back from that. Pretty somber tone as they kind of get back on stage and get their headsets in there because that is not the way you want to lose, especially when you're trying to bounce back from 1-5 start.
And when we were also kind of getting some insights into both of these teams, kind of seeing where they're at in terms of progressing as a unit, Dignitas said that the morale on the team is good. The players appear to be friendly with each other. It's not one of those things where you've got like a lot of constant tension between multiple people. So hopefully that's going to help them in a situation like this. That kind of a game is rough for anyone to lose. Nobody likes to just sit there and watch your base get destroyed. So hopefully that kind of morale and that attitude that these guys have will help them bounce back.
Yeah, and I would have loved to be able to listen in on their huddle and try and figure out what they're doing to fix there because if your team is going to be tested, it's after losses like that. Is there finger pointing? Can you identify what went wrong properly? And can you move on from that without blame? Because yes, your morale can be good, but the more you lose, the more that gets chipped away at. And I want to see if they have an answer here.
Well, the first ban you're going to see from Dignitas this game will be the Jace that they picked last time. Standard red side bans coming out from Immortals as Jhin is also removed by Dig, which is interesting because now they're saying, hey, Immortals, you got to ban Varus or LeBlanc.
Yeah, and actually, there's Kha'Zix as well. So I would, if I'm Immortals here, just thinking about the cohesion of the team compositions, you might not ban any of those three. You leave up potentially Varus, LeBlanc, and Kha'Zix, and maybe take 2 for 1. Like this could actually be a 2-for-1 trade if we're considering that many OPs, but they end up banning LeBlanc, which will give over Varus, and give Immortals Kha'Zix probably.
So Varus for Kha'Zix, likely going to be the trade here. Do not want to opt for that 2-for-1 potential. Misfortune actually locked in immediately on the side of Immortals. And we got to remember that it could also potentially be AD carry Misfortune.
Well, especially because the the Ashe and the Jhin are banned. So I'm actually expecting it to be AD Misfortune. That's a pretty good trade for Immortals as long as they're still able to pick initiation on their team to double up with the Kha'Zix, because the big problem that happened last game is there's a Varus on the other team and no way of getting to him. But Immortals can still build ways to get to him, so I think that is still beneficial to Immortals for these 2 picks.
Yep, just got to make sure that they don't fall into the same pitfall that their opponents did last time, going with a non-tank jungler, a non-tank top laner, a non-tank support, and all of a sudden you're out of options. As Dignitas going to go ahead and pick up the Zyra there in the bottom lane to go along with that Varus. Have to see what they decide to do as their final pick here in round number 1. They still have not selected their jungler. Their opponents have. We might see them go for something like that to avoid getting pinched further, but instead they're going to be picking up that big tank in the Maokai.
All right, we got some initiation there with the Maokai, making sure that Flame doesn't get it again. So we're seeing somebody on Maokai. They actually have won some games with him on that champion. The Zyra is a little bit of a forced pick, I feel like, for them, because they don't want to give Immortals the MF Zyra AD support lane. But now there's still a chance that we'll see Immortals switch that up a bit, but who knows?
Immortals going to go ahead and look for that Malzahar right now, indicating that it is AD Misfortune 100%. Malzahar is going to be supporting that one. The lockdown potential from those ults, a good tool for making picks happen and making plays happen.
Yeah, I agree with you that it's most likely the MF and the Malzahar, but even just today, we saw the Malzahar move mid lane. So there's still a lot of flexing that Immortals can do, and Hermes likes to be clever in these draft phases. So be on the lookout, especially if mid lane gets banned or something, that they could still switch up their support choice and throw Malzahar mid.
Focus on the jungle from Immortals in ban phase number 2, deciding to take both the Graves and the Lee Sin off the table, kind of trying to limit what Chaser can do there in that role. As the Shen is the ban from Team Dignitas, still waiting on number 2, trying to keep Flame down in the top lane.
Absolutely they are, but if it also depends on Immortals wants to put him on more of a carry style, because Jace, the Kennen could technically still be up top lane for Flame if you wanted to do the attack speed with Zen Kennen we've seen a little bit of. Poppy would still be something you could go with, or Nautilus if they wanted pretty basic tank. So while Team Dignitas did accomplish something with those bans, I feel like Flame will still be okay.
Yeah, 10 bans is a lot more than we're used to, but there's still not enough to take a whole bunch of stuff off the table. Nautilus is locked in.
Absolutely so. Plenty of initiation for Immortals. And still a ton of flexibility with that final pick. They still have the ability to pick a support or a mid laner with that final choice.
Vlad picking up that Corki for himself. Well, not for himself, for Keen, for his mid laner. And we've seen the strength of that champion as well. Corki combined with Varus. Not only do both these champions have a lot of poke potential, but you've got physical damage poke from Varus, you've got magical damage poke from Corki. It's a dual threat.
Yep, it's an incredibly common combo. I was thinking they're actually going to go with the Ivern, because Ivern is really good in poke compositions as far as shielding and extra disengage, but instead they just go with the Rek'Sai to kind of make a more standard team fighting composition, and maybe it just has to do with practice since Ivern's still pretty new on the scene.
Ivern is a very different champion compared to most others as well. Definitely not one of those guys that you're just like, oh yeah, it'll be just like Rek'Sai, or it'll be just like Graves, or just like Kha'Zix. Very different style. As Immortals decides to go ahead and lock in Rise for Pobelter. It will be AD carry Misfortune with the support Malzahar now that we've seen that mid laner locked in for sure.
So essentially what we expected on the first 3 picks, no big curveballs in the second part of the draft phase. And this game should be more exciting. We should
It would be hard for it not to be.
Only because this time both teams do have better initiation tools. We have the Varus Ultimate and the Maokai on one side, and then we still have the Malzahar, Rise, Kha'Zix, and Nautilus on the Immortal side. So Immortals still with more tools to initiate, but Team Dignitas has something to fight back with this time.
And Dignitas have got to be happy about the tools that they've got to make things happen. You've got a Rek'Sai, right? You've got yourself with a Zyra that can lock people down. You've got a Maokai that can initiate. All those problems from last time are alleviated, and Dignitas should find some trigger pull opportunities this time around to hopefully participate a little bit more actively in mid to late game League of Legends.
Exactly, and we think about the early game that happened from the last matchup as well. It was a good start for Team Dignitas. Keen and Someday were both off to strong leads. They just were unable to convert any of that. So I want to see if they can get that type of start again and then maybe force a third game in this series.
Hopefully we could see that if you're a fan of Dignitas, that is, but if you're a fan of Immortals, you're hoping to see them get another one, hopefully a little bit more exciting than the last one, but around the same vein and lock it away 2-0. Dardoch on that Kha'Zix, talking about this guy being a top-tier player, being a kind of guy that they're comfortable giving him a lower-tier pick sometimes, but this game, he is on anything but a low-tier pick. Dardoch on Ka is a scary proposition.
Yep, and they had heavy bans towards him. It didn't look like Chaser had anything special planned to kind of invalidate those bans, so this time, Dardoch will definitely be looking to carry. I'm expecting him to go very aggressive items on this Kha'Zix.
On to Summoner's Rift for game number 2 between Dignitas and Immortals. Everybody walking out of the base, fanning out into that 5-point line. Make sure nothing really happens too aggressively early on. Keystone Masteries on the bottom part of your screen. Courage of the Colossus again for the Maokai, but it's going to be Grasp for Nautilus.
Yeah, and that's mainly just to try and stand toe-to-toe with Maokai in the lane. Nautilus has been a little bit disadvantaged later in the game here, and this will only enhance his early laning phase, so he can hopefully max E, shove him in, and then also win the auto-tech trade.
Warlord's Bloodlust on the Varus as well. Just wanted to go ahead and point that out since sometimes you can still see these poke champions go for a Deathfire touch. It's rare, but you will see the Warlords more often. You're going to be seeing that today from Laud. His Varus is going to have a hard time doing as much damage as Cody Sun's Varus did last game. That is for sure.
Yeah, although if we look at the total damage done by Varus, I'm sure there's plenty of people that did 33,000, but that 65%,
right? That's the number that's going to be
for sure.
Very difficult to find, as the fan vote showing up in favor of Immortals. 61% of people think that they're walking away with this game, while 39% still have faith in Dignitas after that shaky game number 1.
Yeah, and early on, we're actually seeing Immortals bot side give Dardoch a pull in both games. They did this with Malzahar for Dardoch in game 1. And that's actually relatively rare in pro play. We're seeing mostly top laners pull for their jungle. And this will now just kind of make the game a little bit harder to predict for Chaser. Normally the dual lanes don't do it because they care much more about the level 2 spike than the top laners do when they're mainly in tank matchups. So Cody Sun and Ole have to make sure not to get pushed in and killed on level 2. But now I want to see how Dardoch varies his start, since he got essentially a better pull than Chaser.
Not to mention, he got what is one of the best leashes in the game, thanks to the level 1 Malzahar, thanks to the crab spam. They clear the buff very effectively, they tank the shots from it. It's just the best you could ask for.
It really is. He's able to go smiteless on his first kill and really just power him up for the jungle. You see he's already level 3, meanwhile you check Chaser. Still got a full buff to clear, so Dardoch full camp ahead.
Dardoch is definitely the kind of player who can make use out of an advantage like this. We'll have to see who he goes on the prowl for, what he tries to do with this slight advantage that he's built up for himself. Gonna be crossing the river, just going to grab that Scuttle Crab for now. As Chaser decides he's gonna grab the one on the other end of the map. Wards from Dignitas will spot out Dardoch taking this Scuttle Crab, so at least they've got eyes on what he's doing.
Yeah, good wards there, and it really kind of forfeited Dardoch's advantage. He spent so much time in transit to get over to that Scuttle Crab, and now he's just clearing out. The Raptor's good recall interrupt by King, knowing Pobelter ran through his entire mana pool.
King can't really fight back any further now either, as Chaser still hanging around the middle area of the map. Tried to go into Dardoch's bottom side jungle, see if there were any camps there to take away, anything that he could possibly just build that advantage kind of back up after his slightly disadvantageous start compared to what Dardoch got, but Dardoch going for the full clear means that's not going to be successful. Now Dardoch uses the Blast Cone to get himself over the wall, and he might be the one finding the camps of his opponent, realizes the Gromp is there, and decides to take it.
Yeah, kills the Blast Cone early, but then also sees the Gromp up. So, really quality early clear on Kha'Zix. It's about the best you could hope for. At level 4.5, 4 minutes in, so good start.
Good start. Slow start. Dignitas to a 300 gold advantage, though, just this early on into the game. 4 minutes in to have a gold advantage on your team like that, and a lot of it's being seen in this bottom lane. Nice! Twisted advance to dodge the dredge line. Maokai mechanic.
Yeah, super cool. I mean, being able to maximize in these tank versus tank matchups can have a larger influence than you would expect. A lot of people think you can just kind of pick up a tank and go in it, and in a sense you can split lane or lose lane soft, but getting those mechanics down, you need to be able to survive. Noting the Flame did go with Grasp early, so he's expecting to early push in someday a little bit. It's pretty important to be able to do stuff like that.
Scryer's Bloom fired off into the enemy jungle by Chaser, just making sure Dardoch's not going to be hanging around as he decides to steal away the Gromp from that enemy jungler. Dignitas' bottom lane continuing to put the pressure on Immortals, always having him shoved back, always having him shoved up. And Zyra and Varus can be very oppressive and difficult to deal with.
They really can. It's just an absurd amount of poke. At this point, even though the MF can kill the Malzahar Vorlings relatively quickly, or sorry, the MF can kill the Zyra plants relatively quickly, it's still tough because now instead of being a support who's free to do that, it's forfeiting CS if you're going for those things. Oh, here we go, Dardoch
getting himself destroyed by Dardoch. That was merciless. Woo.
And right before that happened, I was going to say I was really enjoying watching Chaser and Dardoch kind of mind game each other in the jungle, both going in for the Gromp steals. But then Chaser gets really greedy and goes for the Wolves as well, and that's when Dardoch catches in, having already shopped for the double longsword right here. So if he was paying very close attention, he would have seen Dardoch with the last bit of that tremor sense, but there's no extra indications there. This time, Dardoch reveals. Chaser doesn't unburrow as Dardoch jumps on to kind of get the knockup and maybe have a better chance of escaping. And Dardoch just gets his full combo onto him to pick up first blood.
Very unfortunate for Chaser, who has decided to go with the Tiamat Rek'Sai style. Sometimes you see Rek'Sai forego that, just go straight into tankiness. Not on Chaser. He's going to be making sure he has that extra clear potential, a little bit of extra damage too, as Dardoch works towards that Skirmisher Saber with Warrior, meaning the next time he finds Chaser, it's going to be even scarier than last.
Exactly. Huge dueling potential with the Challenging Smite. And I'm going to see if Immortals can pull anything off here, because even though they got that first blood, they're still actually very even in gold. And this is the big differential actually coming from. It's the bottom lane who's losing by 20 CS.
Big CS deficit down there. Law doing a good job on that Varus, keeping Cody and Olay stuck underneath their turret. Just sort of walking back and forth there, the arrow dissipating before he was able to fire it off where he wanted it. Cody's son just trying to farm up as much as he can here. Olay kind of caught down in the river, can't safely walk himself back into lane, so he's going to have to go back around and come back in the hard way. You can see Dardoch now passing that second blue buff off to Pobelter. Rise, one of the traditionally most successful champions with blue buff, just gets so much use out of that. Going to be happy to pick that one up for himself. As Laudnick Special maybe thought about moving up to try to stop this, but it's already too late.
Yeah, I'm also interested in seeing Pobelter go with the early Lucidity boots on the Rise. Oftentimes you'll see like boots 1 and then a Catalyst, or maybe no boots and still 2 mana items. But based on how much he's been using his summoners to survive in these games, or maybe just wanting the extra move speed to dodge some of Corki's skill shots, he's gone for the silly boots early. Hopefully he's probably using that as a way of staying alive a little bit better, as that's been an issue for him lately.
One thing I'm going to be watching as this game goes further on is Keen's use of the package on the Corki. A lot of times in these games where Corki's the mid laner, you see the early game packages not meet with a lot of success. They just end up getting burnt to kill a minion wave, to walk back and forth to a camp, maybe to grab the Raptor camp for free or something like that. But very rarely do we actually see these early game packages result in some big kind of a move.
Yeah, the main use that I'd like to see from it is if Keen, oftentimes you'll see Corki's walk into the enemy jungle, go for a jungle kill, and then package out if things go awry. You would want to do that against a less aggressive jungler than the Kazakhs, who if he does find him, is going to take half your health, basically victory from Fog of War. So I agree with you. I don't think we'll see anything huge from Keen this game.
Sheen up and running on him means that if he does find somebody, that burst is going to be very, very strong. The tier running on the Varus, along with the Rise, means those stacks are going to be incoming, as Misfortune is working just straight towards that lethality build, the same way that Jhin builds it, the same way that Varus builds it, the Yumu's Ghostblade, and the Edge of Night.
Yeah, the difference after that, though, is the fact that Misfortune can go right into Black Cleaver and full stack that with the ultimate is pretty insane that even just getting to those items will be enough in teamfights. So it's been a big rise in AD Misfortune with the lethality buff, just because she can get that extra Black Cleaver and still have such good synergy.
Speaking of Rise, Pobelter eating some damage from Keen and all those rockets here in the mid lane. Keen does have that big golden glow on him, which means he's got the package ready for delivery. But with only 1/4 of the timer left on it, I think our prediction is going to end up correct, where he doesn't actually have a good spot to deliver it to. But there's ping coming out from Dignitas onto this bottom lane, seeing if they can maybe do something. Olay and Cody's son getting back instantly. That's going to cancel Olay's ultimate. The package arrives right as he starts to channel and knocks him out of it.
Yeah, that was a really weird interaction right there. Olay, with the Malzahar ultimate, it doesn't stop Keen from going all the way through, and the package has a natural knockaway on it. So he was unable to sustain the interrupt onto it, but it doesn't matter. They're still able to escape, although it's going to mean probably first turret for Team Dignitas.
Keen back in mid lane, scaring Pobelter off a little bit, going to be trading with him, loses the trade, but Dignitas grabs turret first blood. They grab themselves a gold advantage, and they're looking better than they did in game number 1.
Yeah, absolutely. And interestingly enough, it's the mid lane and the top lane that are slightly in the favor of Immortals right here.
Dardoch hanging around, seeing if he can find anybody. Problem is, it's going to be 2 at once. He's got to be running away from this one. Strangle Throne's going to be used. Exhaust down. Dardoch in trouble, having to jump away. Pobelter there to cover his escape, but Dardoch, he was setting the trap, man. He didn't know that he was the one walking right into something bad.
Yeah, good on Team Dignitas to roam X Special and Chaser together. Make sure Dardoch can't get any isolation bonus, and it doesn't look like Immortals have any natural answer to that roam bottom from Team Dignitas, and they're just gonna kind of be stuck playing defense for a little bit here.
Dardoch going back to farming. Does that very quickly as Kha'Zix. He's got the evolved claws now, so those isolated targets are gonna be ripped to shreds that much more quickly. Now, this game, we have been seeing a lot recently of the Kha'Zix, the change in evolution patterns. Used to, it was always the Q into the E, so you could have the wings for the resets. These days, we're seeing a lot more of the W evolution second to get the rocket poke, get the extra slows, and just sort of become more of a nuisance with those tools.
Yeah, and there's always a question of what you're going to do. I've seen much more Ws, and less Acadian is a player who's really stuck with the max E because he's usually really fed and he's looking to hard carry in team fights, but in these situations with Immortals having so much follow-up CC, I think Dardoch would go the W as well, but who knows?
I love every single time we pan to see Pobelter and Keen. They're always just finding each other for this split-second trade where they both lose about a quarter of their HP and then go back to not caring about it. Keen gonna be bound up though, Rune Prison finding him. X Special and Chaser looking to invade once more. Olay soaking damage from that piercing arrow. Chaser's gonna be the one ulted. Dardoch looking to jump in. Flames here with the TP. Pobelter's got the cutoff. Lod's gonna be double ulted. See you later. Chaser now trying to collapse onto Pobelter, but he and Keen have got to be careful on this one. Rockets are flying, body counts rising. Chaser's out of here, and Dardoch is grabbing the kill.
And Someday not even in the fight with that teleport, so that's Immortals' answer to the earlier play. They're going to at least be able to get this bottom tier turret.
They might not have got turret first blood, but they will respond in style. Immortals should grab this one for themselves. No difficulty whatsoever. Drake is also up. We'll have to see if they decide to rotate over towards that, but Dignitas is respawning, and here's how the catch happened.
Yeah, pretty much just see Team Dignitas pushed up a little bit, and they can be first to the roam with the Rise and first to the TP with the Nautilus, and they don't even execute this perfectly. They probably had Law dead without the Nautilus ultimate, and they missed the initial dredge line, but Chaser already without Flash, able to get finished off there by Dardoch, and then 2 kills, turret, Drake as well. Bunch of advantage swinging over to Immortals just by pulling the trigger. Didn't even need to execute it properly because they had such a positional advantage.
Now they've got to defend their mid lane tier 1. Cody's son is here, but he's almost completely out of mana. His ultimate also still not off cooldown from the last use. Gonna need some help coming soon from the rest of the team. He's got both the Malzahar and the Kha'Zix working their way over here. Chaser also gonna be hanging around just to make sure that Laud and X Special do not find themselves in a spot that's too dangerous.
Yeah.
And with Keen now joining them, also almost with his Trinity Force completed, Dignitas has the damage and the pressure they need to get that tier 1.
Pretty good reaction there by Team Dignitas after seeing the Cloud Drake go down, because Immortals, after winning the team fight, took 2 objectives in the turret and the Drake, and that takes a substantial amount of time. So Team Dignitas had respawned by then, all group up, know that Immortals is going to be wanting to recall, accrue the numbers in the mid lane, and get theirs.
Now Someday is going to make sure that that top lane turret doesn't take any more damage than it needs to. Dignitas would like to hold on to this 2-1 turret lead if they can. Keep the goal nice and close. Immortals with an only 300 lead at this point. Rift Herald not being taken like we saw him last game. Have to see if Immortals decides they want to put any kind of pressure onto that again. Warrior Enchantment with the Skirmisher Saber completed for Dardoch. Very scary on that. Cinder Hulk still being worked on by Chaser there for the jungle items. Spirit Visage, item number 1 for Flame. Looking to resist all that magic damage coming in from Keen and X Special and even Someday.
Yeah, Flame can completely ignore Someday at this point in the game. Also, generally speaking, he's going to be able to ignore Laud for quite some time because he actually is just a very healthy person with a small amount of armor thanks to that cloth armor. So, expect some impressive tankiness from Flame. Good job winning the early lane with Grasp there. And another pretty close game. So much of this will be about who can actually go and make the play.
Yeah, last game started off very close as well, as Immortals, almost on cue, they're deciding they're going to go for this again. I like seeing this because there's so many times you see teams pretty much completely ignore this guy every single game. Rift Herald gets very little attention compared to other objectives, so Immortals deciding to prioritize this a little bit, and when you put it on somebody like Dardoch, it's like putting a built-in rapid-fire cannon or static shiv proc onto your champion. Just makes the burst that much more scary.
Yeah. In solo situations.
In solo
When
situations.
it's around allies, it's not going to be effective. So I think last game, while they did get it, I don't think he once actually utilized it, aside from just getting the experience and the gold that the Rift Herald itself grants. But when nothing else is happening, like, this is, in my opinion, a little bit of a symptom of Team Dignitas not applying that much map pressure. The fact that Immortals is able to take it without being punished is, why not? It's just you don't see it often because it's a pretty high investment thing to take for questionable rewards.
And honestly, I think last game, the game was 4-4 when they took it. So 1 kill happened in the 20-minute span that Rift Herald was active. So not really a good opportunity to put it to the test there.
Yeah, and also, Team Dignitas was unable to get a kill for the last 24 minutes of that game. I believe they didn't get a kill down the stretch. I want confirmation on that. But if that's true, you had that to the 16 minutes of this game, and it's been a better part of an hour that they haven't gotten a kill yet.
40 minutes since Dignitas has managed to get some blood from Immortals. They're going to be looking for it as soon as they can, but for the time being, the plan is just to farm it up and ride it out, as Ole and Dardoch going to be looking to help Flame take down this tier 1. That's Immortals tying the turret count up, bringing themselves back up to over a 1,000 gold lead, and Cody Sun is again strutting around mid lane, trying to hold off this push from Lodnik Special.
Yeah, really trying to get that rotational advantage, but not able to get much damage down, right? Cody Sun just sitting on his ultimate, will still have it if he needs to throw it in, and the teleport's back up from Flame, so when they're pushing forward, they got to be a little bit careful that they don't get flanked.
Cody Sun is starting to take some real pain from those piercing arrows as well. Ghostblade done now on both of these 80 carries. Means lots of lethality, lots of damage.
Somebody's going in for the fight, though.
The TP. This might be big. Looking to cut off Immortals as they go to exit stage left, and all our excitement of a fight just disappears.
Yep, they weren't quite able to get
False
in there,
alarm.
pull the trigger. False alarm. Team Dignitas still not quite on the board from a kills perspective. Mountain Drake's up in a minute 30, though. That usually means a fight. A missed teleport.
This is
there by
Dignitas, though. This is Dignitas. Last game. We just got done saying it's been 40 minutes since they found a kill. I'm going to be skeptical. But we'll have to see how it ends up working out. Pobelter might be in some trouble here. Someday looking to collapse onto this guy. Flame will have potential, and Someday cannot Twisted advance quick enough.
That was fractions of a second. If he gets hit by the Twisted Advance, the Realm Warp would not teleport him because that can be interrupted by silences and immobilizing effects. So that's a Q, that's a W. If Someday would have Q flashed that, it's actually a guaranteed interrupt because it's going to be faster than his Twisted Advance. So I feel like Someday misplayed that a little bit, and Pobelter gets out with his life.
Pobelter feeling good about being alive right about now. Mountain Drake also going to be feeling good and feeling alive in about 25 seconds, but the question is, how long will he do so, as both of these teams likely going to be looking for him once he shows up. 19 minutes into this match, still a 1,000 gold advantage for Immortals. 2-0-0 on Dardoch in the jungle. Ghostblade completed now for that Kha'Zix. So much attack damage on him. If he can get one of these targets isolated, they're just going to be removed from the equation.
Yeah, and 3 seconds up until Mountain Drake. They do have the positioning, right?
Yeah.
They have Zyra in the river to be able to spawn some plants, and it's going to be tricky for Immortals to get in there. And they can try and rain some Varus arrows down onto them. So not only that, they popped the Malzahar passive, but Dardoch is in position for a flank if they're going to try and get on the back line. I think Immortals wants to fight.
Dig, looking to make something happen, maybe. Flame soaking the damage on the front line, though. That's not the guy that's going to be bursted down very rapidly. Dardoch now backing himself away. Dignitas trying to collapse on this. Ping's coming out there on the blue side. They're pinging exactly where Dardoch is. They're saying, we've got him behind us. See if you can cut him off. See what we're going to make happen as Olay gets caught and popped.
And Dignitas' last kill prior to that was 12 minutes and 4 seconds into game one, actually. So it was over an hour of game time, but they did it.
They did it.
They have it, and now they can go for the
They're
Drake
back
and
on
make
the board.
The series around.
Dignitas have got to be feeling that momentum now. We're finally back into the kills. 20 minutes in. Mountain Drake is their target. That's going to tie the Drake count up 1-1. Mountain versus Cloud. Next one showing up.
Yep.
trying to see exactly what the next one is, but I didn't know if the graphic updated in time.
Gonna watch this one more time. Passive gets popped by Ole, walks straight in X special, and just no teammates around. Dardoch was way back on the flank right there, so Immortals got a little bit ahead of themselves. The next one is Ocean.
Next one, Ocean, for that extra regeneration. Oh, a little bit too late. Flame just going to move down here, start farming these up. Got himself a small CS advantage. He's not Flame Horizoning anyone, but 25 lead over his lane opponent in Someday. Someday with that Sunfire Cape already up and running, working towards Spirit Visage, the very standard top lane build, but with the Spirit Visage rush from Flame, not going for the Sunfire Cape now, instead looking towards Frozen Heart to slow down those attack speeds and give him that cooldown reduction.
Just going full tank, and he's up against 2 marksmen, so the Frozen Heart has a little bit more value since it also reduces the Corki damage, although I think Corki is mostly a spell-based AD carry.
Yeah.
Even so, you're going to be tankier with the Frozen Heart, generally in the Sunfire Cape, as long as you have some health to go with that armor and cooldown reduction for spammable spells. You still get the Sunfire Cape later, but that's what Flames decided to do.
We know that penetration-based stats actually do more the closer you are to 0, so things like lethality are going to be hurting a lot more if you're cutting through those last few points of armor as opposed to taking a guy from 300 down to 250.
Exactly.
So as that armor continues to pile up onto Flame, he's just going to be able to shrug off those piercing arrows from Lod, not going to be having that same kind of experience that we saw Dignitas having last game, as Cody's son just poured shot after shot into them, taking over half their health bars. Dardoch Rocket's not going to find anything just yet, hanging around on that control ward, but quickly realizing he's not in a very good spot to be hanging around here. Arrows coming out, but won't be finding him. Ole beside him, just to make sure that nothing too crazy is going to be happening here right now. Keen rotates top, he'll be defending this one, and Dignitas is fine playing the slow game again. They're waiting it out.
Yeah, and Immortals is very much kind of playing a little bit more 1-3-1 than they have in the previous game, and it dares Team Dignitas to make a proactive play. Last game, even though they didn't necessarily have the tools, they were very much playing not to lose, and that kind of guarantees that you don't win a lot of the time. So here, the one kill they have been able to pick up was Ole kind of just walking straight into them, yet this Team Dignitas team has the Varus, who can initiate with the ultimate, and Maokai, who needs to be able to coordinate with the rest of his team to get some teleport flanks off while Immortals is 1-3-1-ing. So really, Immortals is going to accrue an advantage. The more they can 1-3-1 and chip down these turrets, while Team Dignitas isn't actually matching the 1-3-1 all that well because they're losing CS in it and not pulling the trigger on initiation.
Dardoch and Pobelter both remaining completely motionless in the enemy jungle just to make sure that Chaser's Tremor Sense is not going to be detecting them as they hang out in that brush and try to see if they can catch anybody passing by. They will not successfully do so as the mid lane continues to be pushed up into the face of Dignitas. It'll be immediately cleared away in response. Teleports are up for both of these top laners, so they are free to move around wherever they like, now hanging around in this bottom part of the map. Someday just sort of checking around for Flame. He's going to be finding him right now. Flame turns on the shield, and we've got ourselves a classic tank fight. Look at that damage, or lack thereof.
The latter.
Everybody's spell rotation, no damage onto either player.
Yeah.
Maokai versus Nautilus.
Yeah, well, Flame gone with the tankier, or the armor heavy, since he's losing the 500 health out of the Sunfire Cape, but really hard to touch that Nautilus. If Kha'Zix would have entered the fray, I think somebody would have had to worry a little bit about it, but because of the control words on the other side of the map, Team Dignitas were threatening the Baron.
I always forget that Varus actually does a sort of Super Saiyan yell as he charges his piercing arrow. It's a soundbite that you don't, at least I don't normally take notice of in a big fight or when anything else is happening. But when the camera just happens to pan over an otherwise totally silent Summoner's Rift and Varus starts charging an arrow, you just get that Goku scream and you're like, wait a second.
Yeah, I mean, if they're going to do 60% of his health, it better take a lot of effort to shoot that arrow.
It better sound good. It better sound like something you got to be afraid of. Speaking of being afraid, Pobelter looking to make sure Someday is afraid of exactly what Immortals can do in this 2v1, trying to get himself out. Vengeful Maelstrom going to be absorbing a lot of that damage. The Flames got the CC, POB's got the damage. Someday being cut down very, very slowly, but surely enough, they will find the kill.
Yeah, and nothing doing on the rest of the map for Team Dignitas. I saw Dardoch jumping away from an attempted initiation. Law's ultimate is now on cooldown, and that's the type of 1-3-1 slow bleed that you're seeing Immortals go towards. If Team Dignitas is going to be unable to punish both solo laners, spending 20 seconds killing a side laner, there's no reason for Immortals to deviate from this strategy.
Dardoch now going to be looking for the 1v1 against Keen, even exhausted. Look at the damage potential he has. It doesn't even do anything. Rockets flying out, as now Flames coming up to make sure this is a 2v2. Dredgeline is sidestepped. Keen still trying to get away. 2 seconds onto the valve. Bullet time comes out just to make sure he does not get it.
Track this, though. They're down the Misfortune ultimate, and with 2 dead, you would want them to maybe go for that Baron, but they're going to have to pull back. Just another kill and a little bit of a gold extension for Immortals.
Immortals 5-1, 3,000 gold lead, stealing away the enemy blue buff, taking away the spam power of the Corki. Both of these mid laners so well enabled by the blue. We talked about the Ryze last game. Corki loves it too, just constant rocket barrage spam that is now not going to be that easy of an option as Immortals are setting up shop around Baron Nashor. And forget about setting up, it is just time to go. Trigger pull is there, and Baron Nashor is quickly melting away. Ping's coming out from Dignitas, but it's gonna be too damn little, too damn late, as Xpecial now caught out, locked down, and blown up. Immortals, they get their Baron and a kill.
And Team Dignitas none the wiser. Someday meandering down in the bottom lane, and no one even has a ward in the pit. So an easy Baron there for Immortals. Now they can just go right over to the Ocean Drake, and they're turning this into a stomp if they keep this up.
This is so much like last game, because last game I believe Dignitas was up a couple of thousand gold for a while. Immortals turns it around the mid 20-minute mark. Immortals grabs a Baron, and everything goes to hell in a handbasket for Dignitas. Now the story is repeating itself.
Yeah, except Team Dignitas didn't even have the early game lead this time, and it's only 4,000 gold, so they still have a chance to turn around, but they have not displayed the ability to make the plays. And we're gonna watch this one more time, because this is the initial play where Dardoch does get most of the damage in before the exhaust can hit. Then Keen burns all summer spells, and the rest of the team can just kind of rotate up, because the map pressure is missing with the Maokai already being dead, so Keen really shouldn't have been there while he's trying to match the 1-3-1. Ole or Cody Sun probably could have ulted right there, and then without the Misfortune ultimate up, it didn't matter. Keen being dead, someday would have been able to teleport in, but I guess Team Dignitas didn't think they'd have the ability to 4v5 at the Baron, and they give it up.
All right, Dignitas. History is repeating itself right now. Down 5,000 gold, 27 minutes into the game. Things are looking bleak, but the good thing is they can start fights now.
Yes.
They are not 5 squishy champions. They have got a front line, and they still might be able to punish if Immortals gets too reckless.
Yeah, and if Xpecial gets to the Andrew's Torment, they have a little bit of tank shredding, although Flame is hitting a point where he's actually not taking much damage from anyone. Randwood's Omen completed 261 armor on top of Frozen Heart. There's no percentage penetration on anyone on that team when he's stacking resist, so he can just ignore this as the Baron buff just pushes through. They're going for something.
Nautilus Salty finding its way onto Keen, but he gets himself back and safe in time. Dignitas now going to be eating more damage coming out as Flame reinitiates. Dredgeline back into the fight. Someday's going to be locked down. Ole's killed first. Chasers into the back line. Flame still tanking so much damage. Finally going to be pulled down. Dardoch looking for the moves. Not going to be finding it just yet, but Pobelter has his mop and bucket to clean up.
And they get 3 as Pobelter continues to push inside. It was a pretty messy looking fight as Xpecial actually got a lot of damage over the wall, but advantage still Team Dignitas as they continue this push.
It was a little sloppy going, but they're still getting there, and at the end of the day, that is what matters. This inhibitor turret is quickly turned to a pile of rubble as Dardoch is going to be forced to jump away. Pobelter responding with a very big amount of damage coming right back into Keen's face, but Immortals have to disengage this one, go home, and prepare to suit up again.
Yeah, advantage gained, though, as they walk through this one more time. You can see Flame just being a massive tank walk straight into pretty much everything. Somebody decides to return fire. And this is the fight where you think Team Dignitas, they should be trying to do something. Notice the nice Varus Q over the wall, and it wasn't actually Xpecial. I thought he was able to get over the wall. If Xpecial was over in the Raptor Pit and did a Zyra combo into that, maybe they could have cleaned up the back line. They do not, however. Dardoch forces the flash from Laud. Pobelter flashes into follow. That gives them the 3 for 2, and they can finish the push.
632 damage from the Ryze Overload. 4,600 damage from Cody Sun. 4,300 damage from Laud in that last fight. These 80 carries pulling their weight.
Yeah, that's...
Ole did 392. He died pretty much instantly. I'm pretty sure that was all crabs, too. There wasn't a lot that Malzahar was able to contribute in that last team fight. but the rest of the team took care of it for him. And now Immortals, they've got that open inhibitor middle. They're keeping a couple people hanging around there to just imply that pressure as Pobelter and Dardoch push up the bottom wave. Baron buff has dissipated now, so those minions are going to be regular old boring minions, not souped up purple ones.
So the pushes you'd think would diminish, but they have an open inhibitor. There they
go. They go for it. They make a very nice use of the Realm Warp, out-rotating their opponents, getting the drop on the inhibitor, and then they walk away without killing it.
Oh, they got it. Now we got to fight.
Immortals now in some trouble, having to back away from this one. Got to be careful, then re-engage as they find someday. What else are they going to get? Dardoch's making it 2. The flash for the kill, well played by Immortals. They back out, things look bad, and then as soon as the Stranglethorns clear away, boom, they're right back into the fight.
Yep, with level 16, Dardoch has now been able to get the evolution of his wings to fly right back out there, makes use of it. You saw the huge amount of shredding that Cody Sun can do as well to prep. The armor executes coming out from Dardoch. He's got that Black Cleaver that we talked about earlier to combo with lethality, really take people low, and this is just now Immortals hitting Dignitas in the face with a 10,000 gold lead, so even if Team Dignitas is able to get some initiations, they're just not able to front-to-front team fight right here. The Stranglethorns is totally cleared out from, as you said. Jump flash, jump out again from Dardoch, and a nice 2-for-0 plus advantage.
That bullet time was also a great counter tool against the Stranglethorns. You throw the Stranglethorns down, you think you control the area, all of a sudden Cody Sun says, nope, this is mine. Puts the bullet time down, puts so much damage into the front line of Dignitas. Even though these guys are a lot tankier than the champions they were playing last game, they're not looking like it in the face of all this penetration coming in from Immortals.
Yeah, I mean, looking at Cody Sun individually, he has 59 current flat armor penetration, plus then the Black Cleaver, which can stack up to 30% of their target's armor. And not everyone is doing physical damage to benefit from that, but Dardoch actually is, so it's a pretty wicked combo to have the bullet time coming in on top of Fed Kha'Zix, who's also got that lethality stack.
And going back to what we were talking about before we ever got into this series, 2-4 Immortals, 1-5 Dignitas, both teams with lackluster starts that they would like to start improving on here in week number 4, like to start the rebound right here, right now, and Immortals is looking like the team that has the potential to do it.
Yeah, I mean, if they can close this 9,000 gold lead out, it will be a 2-0 over Team Dignitas, and a lot of it has been patience. They have not tilted after some bad starts, and I feel like their team compositions have been very cohesive in this series as well. Then you look across the battlefield at Team Dignitas, and it doesn't look like they've made many strides. They talked about the team morale being strong, but their communication still seems incredibly lackluster. Someday, who we've been saying has been the highlight player for them, is not actually having a good series. 1 kill on Jace, then nothing in here. An inability to get involved in the right team fights on Maokai as Immortals just continue to extend their lead with a solo Drake by Dardoch.
Yeah, Dardoch has no trouble whatsoever taking this down by himself. That is the last Elemental Drake going to be popping up this game. It equalizes the mountain count between the two teams. Takes Immortals up to a 3-1 Drake lead overall. No Infernals this time around, so no extra damage on the Kha'Zix in the Rise and the Misfortune, which you're very thankful for if you're Dig. But now they're having to get away. Realm Warp coming in. Pobelter right into the fight. Bullet time on 3! Adios, Dignitas! Immortals have found the game!
Oh man, that was pretty. Everyone knocked up by Flame as he finds the initiation, and the bullet time eviscerates Dignitas' health bars right there. That's it.
That's the game. Bullet Time just won the entire match with that beautiful setup. Immortals made it happen. Now they're on to the Nexus turrets. It's all over but the crying. And Immortals have found their 2-0 victory over Team Dignitas.
And this one was substantially faster than the last game. So Team Dignitas tried to leave their base. It did not work out well. And now Immortals should be pretty content with a 2-0.
Immortals, after the kind of messiness of game number 1, yeah, you can say it's a low-kill game, so I guess it's not messy in the traditional sense of a crazy high-kill fiesta. Yeah. But after the game that seemed a little bit out there, game number 2 was just a pronounced win.
Yeah, it really was. They completely walked through Dignitas right there, never really with a large deficit. Dardoch had first blood. Their bottom lane got pushed in a little bit early, but that's going to happen when you get target banned in the marksman role and you give up Varus. So they walked into a matchup that they needed to win as a 2-4 team. Now they're at 3-4, and things are looking a little bit up.
3-4 means you are now 1 win away from having an even record.
Yep.
You don't feel like a losing team. You feel like a team that has the potential to go either way. Meanwhile, Dignitas, I said they were tied for the last place in the league. Now they are last place in the league because they are 1-6 and Envy is 1-5.
Yeah, that's grim for Team Dignitas, especially the way in which they are losing games. They are not trying a bunch of plays and flailing around. They really did not make any good plays as a team in that series. They had a few early game strategies that worked out, but beyond that, the overall cohesion and the teamwork and the strategy weren't there, and that is more concerning than anything else.
Especially for a team that, like we mentioned, is going for this sort of trust the process type of a plan. We're going to get better as things go along. Give us time to work the kinks out. It's going to be a well-oiled machine. And right now, we're looking at that machine like, I don't even know if this thing runs.
That's why you need to trust the process. It takes a lot of time.
A lot of trust
for the process.
We're talking about a lot of faith
Yeah.
in this process.
Get enough first-round draft picks, just pile that in, and then 1 year, when you have 7 centers, you can win. But that just way off the deep end of the Philadelphia 76ers. But the team itself, for Immortals, or for Team Dignitas, definitely need a kickstart of some kind. And it's not like you can bring in someday again. They just, the patches could obviously change things. Different day could definitely change things. But they need to just find a win condition that works, because it seems like they're just hoping they win lanes in most of these games and they naturally win. But their actual closing of the game just doesn't seem to be there in any way, shape, or form.
And in both of these matches, it was in the mid-game. Like I brought up earlier, or the 20-something minute Baron losing to Immortals in both sides was just the end for them. That was where they completely lost control. A game that was favored for their opponents then just became this complete washout for their opponents. They got to shape up that mid-game.
Yeah, they really do, and it's going to be a tough road for them, obviously. They started off so strong. It's been all downhill from there, so best of luck as they try and proceed. But Immortals definitely clean things up towards the end of that series.
For a first-hand account on exactly how that series was, let's send it down to Riv and Immortals Jungler.
That's right. We have the hands of the jungler and Dardoch himself here. Immortals taking the victory over Dignitas. Coming into this game, it seemed a bit like a different Immortals in emotion. Smiles all around. It seemed like you were joking, having fun. What was the difference coming in this week?
Well, we had like really good, well, not really good practice, but we had better than average practice, and we were actually doing really well in scrims for a change where we always have the attitude to improve after every loss, but you know, losing a lot always sucks. So we were winning a lot this week, and we just had really good practice, and we're all just warming up to each other and getting good synergy.
Well, it definitely seemed like it on the Rift. Coming up into this year, you kind of mentioned on social media and before that you felt your first jitters on stage. Kind of how have you processed that and worked through it so far?
I was pretty nervous picking Warwick game 1 because honestly, I just kind of troll on the champ. It's just like natural to just troll on that champ. So I was pretty nervous playing it on stage. I was just like, I said in comms, I was like, I hope this doesn't turn into a fiesta. And then, yeah, we had really, our Cody's son really stepped up today, and he had really good calls in game 1, just telling us to play around his poke and to take everything really slowly instead of I just jump in on Warwick, and it's just, it kind of just turns into a fiesta, but it was really good. My teammates kept me in the game.
You guys were enjoying the party. That's what counts. The fiesta was enjoyed. I do have to ask you, though. You were the one to tweet Warwick will never be played in the LCS probably, and you're the guy to pick Warwick. Are you faking people out, or are you just like, whatever, I'm going against my own word?
Well, I thought the champion was really awful, and then UOL played it in EULCS, so I was like, all right, I might as well, because I never played it. I saw the rework, and I was like...
So wait, I'm stopping you. You never played it?
I didn't play it. I just looked at the rework, and I was like, okay, like, it has its use for solo queue, but I'm pretty sure this is awful and competitive. And then Xerxes played it in EULCS, and the guy's a genius. Like, he plays all this random stuff. Like, he plays Zac, Rumble, Warwick, Ivern before it was a thing. And
don't give away your champion pool now.
He looks really good, and UOL as a team look really strong as well. So I was just like, okay, maybe it has some value. So I just sat and watched like 5 hours of his VODs, and then I played it in scrims, and I was like, okay, we lost, and it was pretty troll, but the champ can be good, I think.
Well, there you go. As long as the team gets you behind you, you can make it come together. Now, the jungle matchup staying there, coming in on Sunday, is versus Reignover. And obviously, you guys have a little back and forth. How do you feel about that matchup, actually seeing how TL did today against Cloud9?
Well, if not taking into account the Cloud9 series, I would have said it was easily favored towards me. Okay. But Reignover looks back in form, and that makes me really excited to play against him. But I mean, I just took down Chaser with little to no struggle, so I think we're both going to come in hot, and I hope it's close.
All right, Dardock, thank you for joining me. Have a nice Saturday off, and we'll see you guys back on Sunday. Now we're going to throw it to the analyst desk to break down the rest of the day.
Thank you very much, Riv. They had a good week of scrims. They're starting off their weekend of games with a 2-0 victory here over a struggling Dignitas. And you heard Dardock right there give props to Cody Sun in particular for stepping up for this roster because, again, we look at Dardock as a playmaker, but you always look at teams and you say you got to have a couple options to win. And seeing Cody Sun step up today is a really big thing for this team.
It really is. And I mean, we've seen a couple 80 carries step up today, both Piglet and Cody Sun, who had been getting a lot of flack for their poor performances, and rightfully so. You know, they hadn't really been doing very well, but both the Varus game, he did great. You know, yeah, it was kind of a slow game, but he was able to get a lot done. And then on MF too, honestly, he was great on MF. And the fact that he was target banned and still ended up having a really good game, some key ultimates throughout the game, especially that game-ending fight at the end was pretty insane. But across the board, he played a lot better, and it was big for the team.
Right, and beyond that, he's playing outside, at least in this game, of the meta. Of course, he had the S-tier Varus pick in game 1, but here showing the MF, giving them more flexibility and variation in their team comps. Again, if we just look at the drafting from Immortals today, I feel like they've opened up a few more strategies for themselves moving forward, and it's going to bode well for this team. Let's go ahead and take a look at that game-winning team fight that you're talking about. Cody Sun, huge bullet time here to close out the game.
Yeah, I mean, this one was just insane. And honestly, I think even though MF isn't kind of that S tier, I think partly because of the lane you get outranged so bad, just look at the amount of damage he is pumping out here. That in combination with the rest of the squad, they have CC from the Rise holding people in the ultimate, same thing from the Malzahar, Nautilus as well. You have a well-crafted composition. These people can hold them into the bullet time, and then you have a pretty fed Kha'Zix who can jump in and clean up anyone who's left away.
I was about to say, if anyone gets away, they have a Kha'Zix to deal with soon after that. This time around, though, everyone on the team doing a little bit more of the damage share, so it wasn't all on Cody's shoulders, but he still does top those damage charts, rather. So once again,
and significantly over Varus, mind you, right? And
that's a good point.
And the thing is, he played against the Varus and as the Varus, and he looked much better on both sides.
Absolutely, absolutely. But here's the thing. Immortals pick up the victory today, but they felt relatively untested in this series. And I think that's what I want to dig into here is the declining Dignitas team, right? 1-1 first week. Jat mentioned it at the very beginning of the day. 1-1, losing to Cloud9 in a relatively close series. We were looking at this squad as a possible top 2 to 4 team. And since then, it's just been trending downward. Do you have any clues, any hypothesis as to why it is that this team is taking steps backwards, it seems?
It really feels like it has to be some sort of mental problem here as far as the teams really having a mental block on, hey, we're trying this strategy, it didn't work, it must be wrong, kind of doubting yourself, getting in your own head, because the team that we saw in week 1 actually looked pretty solid.
Right.
And just objectively, they seem to be getting worse and worse. Game 1, it felt like they didn't try anything. Game 2, yes, they drafted some initiation, they drafted some options for that, but they still really look kind of lackadaisical. They don't seem to be fully committed to it, and that to me speaks of a team that's not communicating well, that's not getting along well, and that is really kind of doubting what has worked for them in the past.
Which is a crazy thing, because if the communication is not there, everything we're hearing from this team is how much the 2 Koreans on this roster are investing in learning English, and that they're almost entirely speaking in English at this point. So you would think that over time, communication would only get better for this Dignitas roster, and that they would slowly rise. So then it maybe points to, okay, well, we've been losing, right? And so maybe now we're having trouble identifying what our actual win conditions of a team are.
Yeah, I mean, it gets really tough. And speaking of the English lessons, from what I've heard, these guys have been taking, 12 or more hours of English lessons a week, plus a rigorous practice schedule, plus your LCS performances, the stress of bad performances, moving to a new country, etc. Like, that's a lot of things on someone's plate. And to be fair to guys like Someday and Chaser, if you think to Impact, it was a long time before he was really accepted kind of as a star in NA again. Yes, he had some pretty good performances on tip. NRG was so-so, but even Cloud9, it wasn't until like the end of the year that he started to really look good. So you can give them kind of the benefit of the doubt that hopefully things are going to improve for these guys and they're going to find their groove. But for now, it's not there.
That's a really good point. I mean, it was playoffs and Worlds impact that is still very fresh in our minds, but he has had struggles himself. So we'll see if Dignitas can find a way to bounce back from all of this kind of unluck they're having, so to say. No, but player of the game is going to go to Dardoch this time around. Picked up that first blood, unlocked the team. The other person in the running there was Cody Sun, who had a stellar performance as the previous game. But 5-0-5 on the Kazakhs, following what he called the trolley Warwick game, where you do nothing.
Hey, I mean, he had full skill participation. He got something done. He got the win. But Kazakhs, 5-0-5 for Dardoch, gets the first blood, never really stops rolling. This is kind of classic Dardoch. Looked very good, especially in combination with Cody Sun, softening people up, allowing him to get those executions, even in the late game team fights, when it can get tougher for that Kazakh. So well played, well deserved from him. And it's good to see it's not just the Dardoch show.
Right, yes, I was about to say dominant 2-0 series out of Immortals, but we're seeing varied strategies from them. We're seeing multiple carries, multiple possibilities of winning. Now, going into the rest of the weekend, let's see how the teams rank against one another. Holding on to their top spot is Cloud9 in first. Then we have FlyQuest and TSM holding a tie at second, while Immortals take possession of fifth place. And we're going to round out the standings with Team Dignitas, who are still looking to pick up their first match win since week 1. Now, we'll be back again tomorrow with another full day of action. Our coverage kicks off with Counterlogic Gaming and Echo Fox taking to the stage on NALCS1, with TSM going against Team Envy shortly after. Over on NALCS2, Phoenix One looks to knock FlyQuest out of their spot in second. Then Rainover and Dardoch face former teammates with Team Liquid versus Immortals. And we heard Dardoch talking about it just there when Riv asked. Prior to the C9 series, he would have said, I got this matchup on lock. But seeing Rainover maybe return to form a little bit, and on that Graves put up some big performances.
He looked scary on the Graves. I mean, that one blemish, the miss might, but still, he looked incredible in both games. He looked solid in game 3, too. Some big games tomorrow for a number of teams. FlyQuest versus P1, 2 teams near the top of the standings. CLG and Echo Fox, 2 teams kind of having a resurgence, looking like they are improving a lot, but still needing to pick up those wins. So the 2 games, for me, start the day off. Are pretty exciting.
All righty, well, for myself, the casters, and the entire live broadcast crew, I'm going to thank you all for watching. We'll see you tomorrow for more North American LCS. Good night.
Let's kick off the action. Right now, we're going to get started with Cloud9 versus Team Liquid. The flash out that leaves Matt to get hit. Daisy can't make it to Matt for 3, but it is Sneaky that can. Calls the curtain down on him. Jensen low to go down. Golden flanking in from the side.
It's gone. Gone? Yeah.
Oh,
nice. Nice.
W. Gonna be the hit. TL has to get back. They don't even have Baron. Ray's gonna be able to take this one.
Kill Renekton.
We can end off this, guys.
Nice, guys. Good shit, boys.
Here we go, though. Piglet activating Ghostblade, and they know Flash coming in.
Alaveros as well.
Ooh.
Equalizer can follow up.
I'm with you. Hey, be careful. Be careful.
He's dead.
I'm still thinking. And I get to kill me.
Ult in 2. Ult in 1.
Penalty. Nice.
Cloud9, 40 minutes in. They will take down Team Liquid.
Oh, can he get one?
Oh, Pobelter in some trouble, looking to make the ult. Find it! Dardoch!
Oh, no.
Twin Fangs, burn him down.
Dead man walk.
Dead
man walk.
Here comes a realm war.
Dardoch's looking to make it happen.
Let's go.
Guys, ult's in. Dardoch's got it this time. You can't miss that one. Especial. Likely going to be burned away here, but he still gets himself out. Pobelter has to flash to make it happen. Dardoch hunting him down, takes a bite. And Immortals, 50 minutes later, grab their win.
Nice. I got him back. I'm too low. I got you in. All right. Okay. Versal flash. Don't flash.
I got him.
Nice, Eugene.
Pobelter right into the fight. Time on 3. Adios, Dignitas. Immortals have found the game.